people think that when you grow your own food, you have to have this tremendous amount of land and you have to have the equipment to plow it up and till it and
Mhm.
do all these different things to the dirt and the ground. That's not true.
Hey, welcome back to another episode of the Brave Today podcast. The show is going to encourage, challenge, and maybe even provoke you to step outside your comfort zone and take more action, better improve yourself and your health. I'm your host, Mark Avens, in the crazy upside down world that we're living in, just pushing a narrative for people to become soft and weak and sick, unhealthy, or more dependent than ever. The goal and intent of the show is to help you navigate through this so that you can become not just braver today, but braver today than you were yesterday. We are going to jump right in. This is Coach's Corner, and we have a special treat. If you haven't listened to Coach's Corner before, we do live trainings for our clients on a weekly basis. And as a result, we do a little kind of secondary recap of the training, if you will. Last night's was really great. Coach JoAnn talked about supermarkets versus farmers markets. And really, really good discussion. And we want to give you kind of a little overview of that because I think it'd be really, really helpful in your pursuit if you're trying to lose weight or just trying to avoid chemicals in foods, or maybe trying to find a better value for the money. As you know, our money is not going as far as it used to. So with that, we'll jump right in. Coach JoAnn, Coach Jennifer, welcome to the show, Coach's Corner. How are you guys doing this morning?
Good.
Doing good.
Doing good, bright and early. We were just talking about food. We were just talking about some food last night, and it kind of came up about salsa. And we'll just start by saying salsa from a farmer's market's way better than in a grocery store. That's just kind of a fact. Wouldn't you agree? Yeah.
Absolutely.
100%. I don't know what it is. Oh, it's probably because it's fresh. That's why.
It's fresh and it doesn't have the preservatives in it. And you can really taste the difference. It's kind of like the farm egg versus the store egg.
Yeah, 100%. And let's jump in. Coach JoAnn, you did a great job, by the way, last night. And I know lots of value from our clients. Let's start off. So this idea, supermarkets versus farmers markets. And maybe, we'll just do some overview. I know the first thing that you kind of got into, and then partly just kind of to share why we decided this would be a really great training is we had people that are asking because they're, buying healthier foods and realizing a couple of things. One of them being price, being the cost in a grocery store, buying like organic foods or trying to get stuff that's healthier sometimes can be not really as cost effective. And we're talking about people that aren't necessarily really struggling to buy groceries, but also realize if you're buying it on a week in and week out basis. But maybe let's start there. Let's, Coach JoAnn, just kind of on the pricing factor, where our food comes from. Let's talk about the costs to start.
Yeah. Well, we all talk about with family and friends the rising cost of foods and how hard it is to keep up with the rising cost and get healthy foods to fuel our families right and our friends right, community right. But when I was looking into things and going to the stores, and I realized, a lot of these things that come up with checking on pricing and how it's going up. Studies have shown that since June of 2021, the pricing to eat at home has actually gone up 12.2%. Wow. And when you think about all the costs of the different foods and you factor that into the 12.2%, it gives you an overall average of 10.4% of your overall food costs. And when you're thinking of 100% value from 0 to 100%, 10 or 12% might not, in the grand scheme of things, seem that bad. When you add it up, going to the store weekly or monthly, it adds up quite a bit.
Yeah, because it's not like we're making 10% or 20% more, right? Unless you get a side job or something like that. What was the percentage of the overall cost? Was it like 20? I think you shared on a statistic. Was there something with 20% or 21%, or was that something I made up in my imagination?
No, the 12.2% was like eating at home, and the 10.4% overall cost of food going up.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah. Have you noticed that, Jennifer? Cost of food going up?
Absolutely. And when you were talking about the grand scheme of things, I'm doing in my head the math. that means for every $100 you're spending, that's an additional $12.
Yeah.
And you don't think that adds up, but how do your multiplication table by 12? 12, 24, 36, 48. It goes fast.
Yeah.
You know, so
yeah, and it's not like other things aren't going up, gas, all those other costs, you know, clothing, all the other thing, taxes, all that kind of stuff is going up. So this is just one portion of that. But if you're actually add up all the extra costs on all the things that are increasing, it can be where, hey, we got to figure out where we can save some money. And that's kind of what we're really just alluded to here in the cost factor. And you mentioned a few, as far as like prices, we don't have to go over that. I don't think it's as important. But what did you find as far as we were mainly talking about fruits and vegetables in a farmer's market versus a grocery store? Maybe we can jump into some of those things. Yeah.
I like the idea. My big aha moment was you can actually negotiate with the farmers. And I never tried to negotiate, like I said, but I have gotten deals because I've, picked up the ugly fruits and not realize. And when I say ugly fruits, I mean they're not the pristine perfect ones, and I was just looking for healthy, and they're like, well, I'm going to cut you a deal because what we have right now is less than desirable, meaning it doesn't look like it should be photographed. It still was completely healthy, completely ripe. It wasn't rotten or anything like that. Like I didn't go to get bad food. It was just not pristine, perfect, ready for the camera, Mr. But and organic. That's the big thing. That's why they're not perfect, because they're not using all of the garbage, the chemicals that a lot of your grocery store stuff does. It's easy to make something perfect when you slap all the chemicals on it. It's the same thing with people. We can go and become perfect by slapping all the chemicals on ourselves, or we can just be natural and enjoy our natural gifts that God has given us. So it works the same way.
That's so good. It's funny you said that. I was intrigued, but I was just almost on the chemicals and I would say more, I don't think too many guys are putting on makeup and that sort of stuff, but I would say, well, who knows nowadays, but with women, I watched, there was this video and there was like some makeup thing and like talking about like 10, 15, 20 different things they were putting on their face. And I can't even imagine the cost on that. Maybe I don't want to go down that because we're talking about food and not makeup here, but let's, on the produce, it makes me think of, I always say this, and organic, I don't know if you noticed, but I noticed in the store, organic food even seems to be polished and perfect these days in the grocery store, which makes me believe that it's probably not all that healthy or organic. And I don't know the rules and regulations, but it makes me think like if this was like, let's just say this was a pineapple or an orange in the grocery store, and the guy in the back is like wiping off all the blemishes and they're like cleaning it and making it pretty, like that probably costs because that guy is making a job, or wherever they're making them pretty and putting the chemicals on them, it actually costs money to do that, and then it ends up being out of your pockets, right? And it's almost like you're paying for things to be less healthy, if that makes sense. JoAnn, I'd love to hear kind of what you found just from your farm, because you went and actually looked specifically for the training in farmers markets and grocery stores.
Yeah. Going back to what you were talking about, how the organic food at the supermarkets don't look organic, really. They look too polished. For me, when I noticed that they look almost like waxed and shiny, and that's not how fresh food really comes. When you get it out of the garden, you clean it up, it doesn't look waxy.
Yeah, the first experience for me noticing that, it was the most blatant, most obvious, is when I went to an orange grove in Florida. Like one of my friends, they have a farm and they have an orange orchard, I guess, or grove, whatever you call it. And I remember going there, and it was some of the best tasting oranges and grapefruits, but they were like, you would never pick those out at the grocery store because they were all black and brown and beat up and different sizes, but unbelievable taste because it came right off the tree. Right. And they weren't sprayed, and they weren't, there wasn't any kind of artificial seeds and things like that were introduced to them. So cool.
The flavor difference is amazing because they're so much fresher. They go like within 24 hours from farm to the farmer's market.
Yeah.
I mean, that's unbelievable. And you can't get any better than that than going to the field and picking it yourself.
Yeah, and speaking from a farmer, you live on a farm, so I'd love to kind of. So, but before we get into that, so I want to ask too, as far as the farm versus the farmer's market, if you will, or let's just say fresh farm fruits and vegetables versus the grocery store. What was maybe the biggest, aside from the taste, anything on that you found as far as that goes? I know we talked a little bit about cost.
Right. The only difference for me is being able to have it right there at home.
Yeah.
That was the big difference. I can just go out and get it rather than having to drive and get it. The other thing is it's a little bit more costly when you have to go to the farmer's market and get it than when you buy it from a seed and grow it and plant and pick it. Because the time it gets from the farm to the farmer's market is so quick, there's really not that much difference in taste that I can find for myself. Because like I said, it's generally within 24 hours. So that's pretty quick. You can obviously get some deals at the farmer's market because they did all the work. Yes, they want to get the profit from it, but they also don't want to take it back home. And they're there serving the community. So they want you to be able to get the food. So you may not be able to get the deals right when you get there, but later on in the day you can. And like Jennifer was talking, just because you might find a bin or a basket with fruits that don't look very perfect, they're just as good. And I get those all the time right from the vines from my garden.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. We're so trained because, if we grew up at grocery store produce, if we grew up with that and our mom and, when we were kids and sat in the little shopping cart cars or in the little front seat and stuff and went around and they went to the produce section, all the oranges are lined up and the bananas all look the same. And, all the lettuce is perfect. And they have the little misters on there, just shining them, making them look pretty and stuff. Then we go somewhere and I know farmers markets, if it's a legit farmer, they're going to have pretty high quality and it's going to look good. It just looks real, not even like bumps and bruises and bad. It actually looks like real produce. It doesn't look like it's a bunch of cloned produce. Kind of makes me think of like cloned fruits and things like that, which like, why would I put that in my body? Or strawberries that are exactly the same size and every string bean is exactly the same length and all those types of things. Cause I know you grow a lot of that stuff. And that's what kind of makes me, I guess I was mentioning it last night. It gets me a little angry at first, but then it also gets me to really want to learn more because I think most people think it's really hard to get and find or grow or learn how to put healthier food in your body. And it really isn't that hard. It's just because we've been just so kind of tunnel vision into expecting that the only grocery or the only fruits and vegetables that are worth getting are in a grocery store, right? Because they market it really, really well and they make it look like, oh, that's a beautiful orange. I need to eat that one, right? Or that's a great head of lettuce. I need to have that, not knowing really what's inside of it or what's sprayed on it or how it's raised. I remember when you think of things like bananas and maybe avocados and stuff, and they come in the box. And I didn't mention this last night when I worked in like a little general store. They used to ship in produce because we had like a little produce section. And I remember some of the stuff that got shipped over in boxes and they weren't ripe. So they're literally picked, not even ripe yet, before they come, over into the United States. So you're getting stuff that's not fully ripened, which doesn't get all the sun, the vitamins, the nutrients. And I think you actually mentioned that. And I think that's what adds to the taste too, really like being able to get that right off the vine and something that's not picked before it's supposed to be picked. Right. And it's pretty amazing. So let's switch gears a little bit, unless you guys have anything else to add. I love to switch gears and talk about just the different options as far as, and I love for the audience and you're watching, I love to know if you go to a farmer's market, where is your farmer's market? How did you find it? And maybe we can talk about that because it's pretty easy. It was easy for us to find farmer's markets here if you don't have a farm, because we're going to talk about if you maybe want to think about growing food in your home in a minute. But before that, how did you find your farmer's markets, JoAnn and Jennifer?
The first place that when I used to live back east, I just grew up, they had the same farmer's market that was right across from the like where everybody met, like it was called Princess Anne Park, and it was where the rodeos were and where
nice.
All like everything happened. It has since become, it was sold to the hospital and it has since become a hospital, but the farmer's market stayed and nice. Neighborhoods grew up around it. So it was very easy to find. And it is a huge farmer's market there.
Weekly?
No, daily.
And daily farmer's market. Nice.
And it's open year round. So whatever the farmers are growing. So that's where I shopped in Virginia Beach. And that was something that was just, that's where my parents shopped. But I've just moved to Texas here in the past couple of years. And I had to go hunt. And I found out that the little town I live in, every Saturday, they have the farmer's market through the summer. But, and that's literally a mile from me. And then also about 5 miles north of me in the next town over, they have a farmer's market that's year round. It's an indoor farmer's market, but it's year round. So awesome. I'm looking forward to checking that one out because I'm interested in finding I found out about different types of mushroom that actually don't taste like mushroom because I'm not a fan of mushroom, but it's good for you. So yeah. I'm going to go look at the farmer's market to see what they have.
Yeah. And the power of the internet, right? So you probably just, when you got to Texas, if you didn't know, right, until you started research, and that's all I did when I moved here to Colorado is I just went online and I said local farmers markets. And then I just checked them out. And there's some at the farm you can go to. We haven't really ventured too far from there, but it was the same. We had a weekly one in the summer. My wife, we heard about one in the winter here and we just hadn't gone. And it was in this center. It was like an outdoor mall, but they have people come on Saturday. And that was where my wife found that delicious salsa I was talking about. And again, what I love too is that there's just less distractions for buying those impulse things that are 2 for $1. And you really shouldn't be eating it, or it probably has junk in it, but you just can't help yourself because you're looking for a good deal at a grocery store. And I'm talking all like the junk food. Like I mentioned, a Pop-Tart that we had last couple Saturdays ago when our friends were in town here. And it was like a real Pop-Tart in a package, somebody made homemade, and it was delicious. It was sweet. It probably had 300 calories in it. And the thing was, it was probably a little more expensive than a box of Pop-Tarts, but I didn't have the box of Pop-Tarts at home. I didn't have 8 or 10 wherever in a package, 8 Pop-Tarts in a package. And there's nothing but garbage in that. There's like nothing real in that. Yeah. So I was like, you know what? When you go, you're also less tempted to buy the junk, which is good. Even if it's a baked good, at least it's a baked good. And it's probably with fresh ingredients, butter and flour and real sugar and, made with love from a farmer or somebody in the farm family that likes to bake. Right.
And don't discount. I don't know if that happens where you're at, but I've noticed it here a little bit, and it was big back home in Virginia, where you would see a truck on the side of the road, like a pickup truck full of produce. And it wasn't necessarily a farmer's market, but it was the farmer had so much that they literally just stop in a fairly high traffic area to sell watermelons or collard greens or just whatever. Yeah. I've come across that here and actually gotten honey, local honey.
Honey was, I'm sure, JoAnn, you have that your way as well. We have it ours.
Have a lot of those here. And I grew up going to the state fair. There's a state farmers market not even 2 miles from the state fair. So we'd have to pass it. So I grew up knowing where that huge farmers market is. Like Jennifer said, it's a huge farmers market. Yeah. And it's open year round, 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. And it's just amazing fruits, vegetables, meats, eggs, everything. They have a restaurant right there that they'll let you taste different items that were made with the fruits and vegetables and meats there. And, huge difference. Plus, we have our local, just seasonal ones that run from like June to October once a week.
Yeah, once a week. Yeah. Yeah. It's funny because I think, it's partly why we do this, because we want our clients to be eating healthier so that they can get better results. And we know when they do put more foods that's going to fuel their body rather than break their body down, we know they're going to lose weight faster. They're going to get in shape. So those who are listening now, it could be one avenue you didn't think about instead of just buying groceries. And even if you're buying healthier stuff, the options when you go to the grocery store when you're trying to lose weight, it's easy to go to the frozen food and just pick up a couple lean cuisines. But the reality is a lot of stuff is still garbage. It's just like the prepackaged stuff that you buy. I don't think people are into that as much anymore. Maybe they are. Oh yeah, Weight Watchers and some of the other stuff where you're buying stuff that's just all artificial. And again, has the chemicals, the junk. And even if you lose weight, you're not getting healthy nutrients and vitamins in your body. Growing up, we grew up kind of on the eastern end of Long Island, and there was lots. In fact, the family who rented our property out once my grandfather got a little older could take care of it himself. And we weren't doing it. My dad was a carpenter. That was a produce stand that was basically there every day, 7 days a week or 6 days a week. And I remember growing up on that, and we had either the farm stand or we just go in our backyard as well and just pick the corn right off the stalk and get, fresh, have pumpkins there and potatoes and little cherry tomatoes and stuff. I actually feel like that's part of how I've been so healthy, is having that childhood with healthy, whole, fresh fruits and vegetables and obviously meat too, because we were on a farm, that really attributed to being good and healthy and never sick, no allergies at the time, none of that stuff, which is something to be said. I think that's coming back. Do you guys agree? You think that's coming back maybe for people that are at least wise like us and wanting to be better consumers, putting healthier stuff? Yeah.
I think more so, people are really starting to turn the corner and notice the ingredient lists on the back of these prepackaged foods and the salt content. I've known of so many people that are like, I got to watch my salt intake. I got to watch my salt intake. And if you flip over a lean cuisine or any of those other things, the amount of salt, even rice, like the minute rice that you do. How does rice have so much sodium in it? Because it's not all rice. There's all kinds of chemicals and stuff that they're putting in there when you go to buy I think Uncle Ben's has it or whatever, but when you flip it over, because it's ready in a minute, you got to read through and find out that there's like over 1,000 milligrams of salt in that little tiny, one person packet. Great, you bought for one person, but now what are you doing to your body?
Yeah. And salt's a great preservative, right? So that's partly why they dump a bunch of that, like in soups and things like that. Very wise. And we know, because we've done, being able to read labels and stuff, although we do owe that training pretty soon. Let's change gears and let's talk about what's even maybe better. I was actually intrigued when JoAnn, I know where she was going, but I loved how she shared it about better than farmers market. Is there something even better? And he kind of touched a little bit on that. And we did kind of give it away earlier, mentioning that JoAnn lives on a farm, but let's just go there. Better than farmers market. How does that work, JoAnn?
Yeah. People think that when you grow your own food, you have to have this tremendous amount of land and you have to have the equipment to plow it up and till it and do all these different things to the dirt and the ground. That's not true. There are many, many ways you can do that. And just to name a few, you can get planter boxes. You can either make your own raised bed or go to any kind of home and garden supply shop, agri supply shop, and they have ready-made raised beds that all you have to do is just stick together. And you have a ready-made raised bed to stick in your little backyard, however big it is. You put your dirt in there, your soil, and you can grow pretty much whatever you want. You can even take flower pots that sit on your back porch or your front porch or deck, fill it up with soil, and grow vegetables. Tomatoes are wonderful like that. You could take a lattice and put up somewhere on the side of your house even, or on the step of the rails to your deck, and let things grow up that. You can even use fish tanks inside of your house, which I do a lot because it keeps everything contained. You can put automatic sprinkler systems actually inside the fish tanks. You have ready-made lights at the top of them to give them light, and they stay safe, and you can grow them there. And you can also use window seal boxes. Those are perfect for things like herbs or even little cherry tomatoes like you were talking about. You could even grow zucchini or squash in there, and they'll be great right there, right outside your window. Even open the window and just pull it off.
Awesome. You just got to be a little creative, and just, the best thing is you can do easy research, just looking that stuff up, ways to grow food at home. There's so many. I mean, I've had some ups and downs with that because I haven't really put in the full effort, get distracted running a business and raising a family and being a husband, all that stuff. But the tower gardens as well, we tried that. We actually had good success during right when everything was shut down a couple of years ago. We were able to do that and had really a great harvest for a little while. And you just cut it back and they kept growing. You just cut them, trimmed them, and they kept growing. You didn't even have to take them out. Microgreens, not so much. Didn't really have good success with that, but I kind of came in late in the season when we was doing that. But that's another easy, just those little microgreens that can grow in a week or two, kind of learn about. And there's some great people out on, you can look at YouTube and even, ask around, and people that maybe you saw a neighbor that has a tower garden when you drove by, dropping the kids off at school or something. And you can always ask, hey, how did you do that? Where'd you get it? And there's usually, and sometimes the farmers markets have those. They actually sometimes sell those. They might even sell where they show you how to do it. And I think if you can read, and I would imagine if you're listening, most of you guys can probably read and learn how to do it. And that's something that I wouldn't just let that discourage you, even if you don't, like JoAnn said, have a bunch of property. It's something that the raised beds is interesting. A lot of people here do it in Colorado. I noticed somebody was just putting theirs out. Now they're like the planter boxes, not raised beds. I guess raised beds like a planter box. And then, so do you, I guess you can put irrigation in there, or you can just hose it. Cause I saw people have like irrigation that goes to them and just does drip, waters them on a daily basis or so forth. So much sun here in Colorado where we live. And I'm kind of encouraged. I'm maybe considering to do something like that. It'd be pretty awesome. And I guess where you live, you have to decide you got to look at what's going to grow where you live too. Because chances are I'm not going to probably grow bananas here in Colorado, or you might not be growing, some of the things that you might see in more of a tropical. I don't think we can grow maybe mangoes here. I don't think that would work probably too well, right? Jen, can you grow mangoes in Texas?
Probably in southern Texas.
I bet, yeah.
It does get pretty warm, and you can definitely grow avocados in Texas.
Yeah.
And as far as growing your own, one of the things we attempted growing our own, and apparently I have a black thumb, not a green one. But that's fine. A bag, like a little pouch of seeds, it only costs a few bucks.
Yeah.
And like JoAnn said, you can put it in, flower pots and this, that, and another. So all in all, we actually used reclaimed wood to build ours, to make a little box. And nice. So it didn't cost us anything for wood. It cost us a couple of bucks for nails. And we bought some soil. Our result, like I said, I have black thumb, not green thumbs. Everything died. But we were only out a few bucks. Yeah. So literally we were out less than the cost that we would have spent in, one trip to the produce department. But what would have happened if we would have thrived? Yeah. And I will continue to try and I'll figure it out. But, the thing is, you don't have to put a whole lot of money into it.
Yeah.
And as far as time goes, setting it up and watering it is your time.
Spare time, half hour here or there. Yeah.
Yeah. So the plant is doing everything else. The most of the time is being patient enough to let it grow and being aware of whether you're giving the plants too much sunlight or not enough sunlight. In our case, it was too much sunlight. But that's the big thing. When you're talking about a tiny porch garden or, something like that, it's not a lot of your time. Now, if you happen to own acres and acres of farm, yes, that's a lot of time. Yeah. But when you're talking about backyard gardens or porch gardens or balcony gardens, you're talking a few minutes a day to check on your plants.
Yeah, and it's so true. I'd like to, with that said, I'd like to maybe do rapid fire and just talk about when you mentioned better than a farmer's market. Just, let's go around. I mean, I bet you we could even right now just rattle off, and we didn't prep this before. I know we talked a little bit about it last night. So, what are some reasons why? Just give me one reason, JoAnn. We'll go around. We'll just until we stop, until we actually until we run out of reasons. Better than maybe farmers market, and even if say you can't get to that, at least in your mind that also maybe I can get at a farmers market. But what's be better than having that at home or doing what we just talked about, having your own little garden somehow, some way? How is it better than maybe even a farmers market?
For me, because it's right outside my back door.
Boom. There's there.
Nothing like going out the back door, picking it and eating it right then.
Yeah, convenience. What about you, Jen? What do you think?
Less chemicals.
Less chemicals. Yeah, for me, the taste, like just the taste of it, and you're getting even fresher, and you can decide when you pick it, right? You're not, if you're growing it at home or you have a little farm on there, you have just a little bit to take care of versus a lot. And then you have to sift through sometimes at a farmer's market. What else? Let's keep going around.
If it's herbs, the smell that the herbs bring to you, and it gives you that like feeling of, yeah, this is what it's all about.
Satisfaction and from the smell. Yeah, awesome. How about you, Jen?
If you're growing your own, the pride of accomplishment, and I know pride is one of the 7 deadly sins, but it's when you accomplish something, the ego boost it gives you, to be able to say, I did that. Yeah. So, and that's nice.
Yeah, I'm being intent. I think, and we're going to keep going around. I think the kind of to add to that is being intentional that you're going to spend time. And when you focus on things that are going to help you move the health needle forward, it's going to move you away from having to be a part of the matrix and system of pharmaceuticals and doctors' offices and, asking for another quick fix diet or doing diet foods and that sort of stuff. So that would be one. What else?
The comfort of knowing how everything was grown and what's exactly going into your body because you grew it. You knew what you know what you did.
Yeah. Awesome. We getting close. What else? What do you got, Jen?
The variety that you can get at a farmer's market or growing your own versus if you notice the variety at a grocery store is getting less and less.
Yeah. So yeah. I'm going to go on that. I think also with and I had mentioned this a little bit last night, learning how to grow food, whether you have a little apartment, condo, home, the small property, big property, you start to grow that stuff, then you're less relying on maybe even the food supply chain that may or may not have an effect at some point. I never lived through the Depression, but I know my family has, my grandparents have, and one of the things they learned how to do is to grow their own food. And they did it ahead of time, so they were okay. But there's a lot of people who they didn't, and they were relying only on the grocery store. If we only had, not to say the grocery stores are necessarily bad, but I would say is if you're relying on the grocery stores to get your fruits and vegetables, and then all of a sudden one day they don't have fruits and vegetables, and then what are you going to eat? Bugs? Well, we're not going to go down that rabbit hole.
Well, we've all had that experience back in 2020 where the grocery stores looked like third world country because people were clearing them out. Yep. So you had a kind of a little bit of a taste of what it could be like in the event that our food supply chain gets a hiccup in it.
Yeah.
And if that didn't scare you in 2020 into trying to figure out ways to make sure that your family was covered, then, I want your brain because it definitely made me think twice about choices.
Yeah,
sure.
What else? Anything else? Is that about it? JoAnn, got one more? We'll finish us off.
The actually how easy it is to grow your own and not have to go drive somewhere. Yeah. And the cost just by getting a pack, like Jen was talking about, getting a packet of seeds.
Yeah.
It's minimal.
Yeah, the cost savings. I think the front end work will be maybe the investment, sweat equity, if you will, right? A little bit of sweat equity. But I think the investment you just mentioned, having chickens and having your own eggs, right? Mm-hmm. So yeah, there's a little bit of equity you got to put into raising the chickens, but as far as they're pretty self-sufficient, right? You got to feed them and they go around and scratch and do their thing, lay their eggs, and you got fresh eggs. And I don't know about you, but last I saw one of the stores here, not where we typically go grocery shopping, Sprouts, and not to call them out, and we don't get any kind of proceeds from them, but I saw eggs as high as $12 a dozen, $1 an egg. And I know not too long ago, maybe 3 or 4 years ago, eggs were about $3 to $4. I think the high end eggs are maybe $5 to $6. And I'm talking like the high end eggs that you would buy in a grocery store that maybe you're claiming to be organic and pasture raised, if you will. They were maybe 5 or 6. Now I've seen them at twice. So the cost of eggs are double. I've seen as high as doubled. So again, the cost on that, if you're eating how many eggs do you usually get a day with your chickens?
We get about 9 a day.
9 a day.
But yeah,
$9 a day, if you think of it in those terms, just to kind of round it to the cost. So that's not a bad savings, and fresh eggs and knowing what's in them, knowing what you're feeding the chicken and stuff. Awesome. Cool. I think we pretty much completed it. Supermarkets versus farmers markets. So with all that we shared, I would love to hear, do you think a supermarket is better for your health, or a farmer's market, or even a farm or a small farm, or, trying to learn some of the stuff on your own? Obvious answer is, the second. Supermarkets can be helpful and convenient, but sometimes the convenience is going to make life and your health a lot more inconvenient over time. And so we want to inform you and I appreciate JoAnn, great training last night, and Coach Jennifer, it was awesome for your input. One of the things that we ask if you like the show is that you subscribe to it, you share it. We get on here, we're on YouTube, it's on podcast, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, so forth. And I don't have any ads running on the show, and I don't want to be told, by advertisers what I can and can't say. So we're going to continue to do it this way. You can find us on social, and we do ways to kind of give you the next episode, doing different episodes. I like talking about health, fitness, things that are going to help you not just become brave, but again, the Brave Today show is about becoming braver today than you were yesterday. And I hope this show helped. Hope you have an amazing, blessed week, and we'll talk to you soon. Take care. God bless.